Earlier this year, I reviewed Pokémon Shield. Despite the game's weak story and technical shortcomings, I found it mostly enjoyable. If nothing else, Game Freak proved it could still deliver some neat new Pokémon and cool little moments. The latter point is especially important because over the years, the late and post-game sections of Pokémon games have become the most memorable. Gym leaders storming In's castle, Mega Rayquaza blowing up a meteor, Nebby evolving. The stories of Pokémon games may be largely perfunctory, but moments like these are carefully crafted and leave lasting impressions. Because of this, I looked forward to seeing what Game Freak would do after announcing that Pokémon Sword and Shield would receive downloadable content. I thought this format would allow Game Freak to play to its strengths, and the reveal of two small, self-contained zones with bespoke stories initially seemed to confirm that. Some of my optimism, however, has been drained after playing through the first of these zones, the Isle of Armor. The Isle of Armor lies off of Galar's east coast, and its main attraction is a Pokémon trainer dojo. Upon arrival, players are tasked with 3 tests to earn the right to train Cub Fu, a new legendary Pokémon. The remainder of the story involves helping Cub Fu unlock its true potential. Along the way, players meet a few new characters, encounter a bunch of returning Pokémon, and that's about it. Straight away, the story and characters offer little. Depending on the game version, players will quickly gain a new rival, Clara for Sword and Avery for Shield. Outside of their appearances and Pokémon preferences, however, these characters differ very little from one another. The game even uses the same framing for them in cutscenes. Worst of all, they don't even factor into the whole story. They dip out partway through, making what little development they display at the end feel shoved in at the last minute. A slapdash attitude permeates this DLC, and it manifests itself in many ways. For example, there are times in the game when the screen fades to black and explains what happens next with a simple text box. Moments like these existed in the main game too, but they stand out much more here because of the smaller scale of the content. This door in the dojo further demonstrates what I'm talking about. Players can upgrade the amenities of the dojo over the course of their stay, and a few of these services are accessed from this door. Players, however, never get to see what's behind it. Instead of creating a new room or otherwise altering the dojo's architecture, new options are simply added to a menu. Some of the upgrades do add items to the dojo, but they are already existing game assets. The game tries to lampshade the whole thing, but rather than making me chuckle, it only foolishly highlighted the lack of effort. Thankfully, the rest of the Isle of Armor shows more care in its construction than the dojo would suggest. Galar's wild area was neat for what it was, at least when it was new. It never really felt like a place, though. It was just a wide-open landscape of simple biomes. By contrast, the Isle of Armor is much more complex. Rather than a tube of terrain, the isle includes well-defined habitats sensibly connected to one another. Some, like the caves and forest, are merely broader routes, but by the large, the isle feels like, well, like a place. I know that sounds silly to say, but for this series, which has cruised on straight and narrow pathways for much of its history, the Isle of Armor's geography is a big step up. Feeling like a place isn't the same as having an identity, though. A dearth of landmarks and unique features makes much of the isle appear generic. This can also make it difficult to navigate because the map still lacks detail and doesn't show players' exact location. Besides the dojo, the Towers of Two Fists, and, this Wailord, the isle fails to excite, further lending to the slapdash attitude. Let's do some comparisons. Here's Galar Mine from the main game, and here's Warm-Up Tunnel from the Isle of Armor. How about another one? Here's Glenwood Tangle, and here's the Forest of Focus. And again, Route 8, Pot Bottom Desert. This blandness could be purposeful rather than lazy, as the technical issues which plague the wild area are again present in this content. Pop-in abounds in heavily detailed areas, and the game again chugs when online. Man, that's rough. Now, I'm game to run around and catch Pokémon just about anywhere, including the dreaded Route IRL, but when one of this content's hooks is getting to explore a new environment, I can't help but be disappointed when its prevailing aesthetic is PS2 textures. It's not all bad though. Along with the Cub Fu storyline and the isle itself, the content includes several new items and features. New NPCs dot the zone, offering Pokedex entries and traits for Cantonian Pokemon. A move tutor with 18 new moves resides in the dojo, and new raid dens are ripe for farming the Armorite ore needed to pay them. The dojo also contains a device that combines unwanted items into new ones. It even has a rare chance of creating the much coveted Apricorn balls from gold and silver. The meatiest offering is an island-wide hunt for a lowland Diglett. There are 151 in all, and an NPC rewards players with a lowland Pokemon at collection milestones. Despite their telltale blonde hairs, these little dudes can be tough to spot. Try to find one while I shake this tree. Did you find it? Thankfully, the game does track how many remain in each area, so persistent players will eventually find them all. Just remember, Diglett love to nibble roots. So, given all of this, is the Isle of Armor alone worth the purchase of an expansion pass right now? Sadly, I don't think so. Nothing offered by this content feels essential. Cub Fu will undoubtedly see distribution in a future promotion, and the returning Pokémon can be obtained by using Pokémon Home to transfer an old collection or trading with those who have already done so. None of the extra items, features, or moves are currently crucial. At best, they make some things easier to obtain, like ability capsules and Gigantamax forms. That just leaves the story and the zone itself, and as I've said, neither are exciting. I hate to say this, especially considering how much I enjoyed the base game, but unless this is your first and only Pokemon game, the Isle of Armor is largely skippable. That's probably a relief for some people. After all, the more essential a piece of DLC is, the more likely some are to feel that they didn't get, quote-unquote, the whole game with their initial purchase. Still, that doesn't make the Isle of Armor's missteps any easier to ignore. Whether they're due to laziness, lack of talent, or technical limitations is uncertain, but I do know this. I'm less hyped now for the next one.